Discover the heartwarming journey of a single dad CEO who hired his maid as a fake girlfriend. This will change how you view family forever. Jake stood in the bustling heart of San Francisco, a whirlwind of electric energy and anticipation. The city buzzed outside his office window, but somewhere amidst the tech startups and urgent deadlines, his mind raced with a new kind of pressure. Did he have what it took to be both a successful CEO and a loving father? As a single dad with a blossoming tech company teetering on the brink of success, the stakes felt higher than ever. His 8-year-old daughter, Emily, burst through the door with her usual infectious excitement. "Dad! There's a family night at school! Everyone's going!" Her eyes sparkled, and her enthusiasm ignited a warmth within him. He leaned down for a hug, inhaling the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. "That sounds amazing, kiddo! I can't wait!" But the moment was fleeting. Reality hit like the morning fog rolling in off the bay. That evening, under the glow of a million city lights, Jake's heart sank. He couldn't possibly show up to the event alone. As Emily chattered on about games and crafts, he felt an overwhelming pressure to present a perfect image. The thought of other parents judging his single dad status filled him with dread. So, in a desperate moment, he hatched a plan. He'd hire Maria, their loyal maid, to pose as his girlfriend for the night. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that is happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. Arriving at the school with Maria by his side, Jake felt a mix of relief and unease. Maria, dressed in a simple but elegant sundress, accepted the role with a knowing smile. As they mingled, the laughter between them became genuine. She confided in him about her life as an undocumented immigrant, her own pursuit of the American dream, and the trials that had shaped her. Jake felt the weight of his own struggles lift as he saw not just her resilience but shared hopes. The night hummed with energy, parents hustled between booths, children squealed with delight, and for a moment, he and Maria melded into the backdrop. Yet, whispers from sharp-tongued parents soon pierced through their laughter. Curiosity flickered in their eyes. "Who's that woman with Jake?" It was like the sharp crack of a whip that jolted him back to reality. Then it happened. Emily, oblivious to the tensions around, pointed to Maria. "Look! That's my new mom!" The words erupted like fireworks in the quiet space. Jake's chest tightened. Panic surged through him. They had built a house of cards, and now it threatened to collapse. In that moment, he faced an emotional storm that left him questioning everything. Was this charade worth it? With a glance at Emily, her innocent excitement lighting up her face, Jake found himself standing at a crossroads. Could he risk everything for a false identity? Or could he embrace imperfection and the truth of their family? As the laughter around them dulled, Jake contemplated the fragile bond beginning to form with Maria and the undeniable love for his daughter. The curtains of pretense hung heavy, but one way or another, tonight he would have to face the inevitable truths that might change the image of family forever. Jake felt the air thicken around him as Emily's words echoed in his mind. New mom. How could she say that so casually? It was innocent, yet it sent a wave of dread crashing over him. Maria looked down, her expression a mix of surprise and concern. The laughter of other parents faded into a distant hum as he felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. He knelt beside Emily, forcing a smile. "Honey, let's go check out the art display," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. She grinned and tugged at his hand, pulling him toward the rows of glittering artwork. Jake's heart raced, battling between wanting to keep this charade intact to protect his daughter, and the urge to come clean. As they walked, he exchanged quick glances with Maria. She was trying to be supportive, but the tension in her posture betrayed her unease. It struck him how funny it was how a few hours could change everything. Just earlier, they'd shared gentle jokes and laughter. Now they were caught in a web of expectations either had signed up for. Emily rushed toward a colorful display of finger-painted masterpieces, completely unaware of the silent storm brewing around them. Jake crouched next to her, pointing out a painting filled with swirls of blue and yellow. "Look at that, buddy! You could teach them a thing or two! That's from my friend Lily!" Emily exclaimed proudly. "She's really good!" The joy radiating from her reminded Jake of the simple truth that remained hidden beneath all the chaos she was thriving in her little world. But as proud as he was of Emily, a growing thought echoed in his mind. What kind of example was he setting? Was he teaching her that it was okay to pretend for the sake of appearances? The irony gave him pause. Here he was, a CEO respected in his career yet feeling utterly out of his depth in parenthood. Was this the identity he wanted to project? "Everything okay?" Maria asked, her voice barely above a whisper as she approached him. He nodded, but the confusion in his mind reflected in his eyes. As the event continued around them, the tension felt palpable. Jake watched as other parents threw glances their way, some entertained by the unexpected sight of him with Maria. Others whispered behind their hands, creating an undercurrent of judgment that made Jake wish for a hole to swallow him whole. Finally, Maria broke the silence. "Jake, maybe we should address what Emily said." He breathed deeply, weighing his options. "I don't want to confuse her more than she already is. We can talk later." But Maria was backing down. "She's already confused, Jake. Pretending isn't a good solution, for her or for us." There it was, the inevitable clash of reality against the comfort of avoidance. He knew she was right. Still, fear gripped him, the fear of losing the fantasy they had stumbled into, the delicate bond he had with his daughter while trying to forge something new with Maria. Emily's laughter pierced his thoughts as she played with her friends. Jake looked up, torn. Could he stand his ground, or would he let go of the illusion? In that moment, he realized he had more at stake than just a fabricated relationship. It wasn't merely about appearances. It was about the truth he needed to build for the future. With determined resolve, he turned back to Maria. Maybe it's time, he hesitated. They needed to find an answer together, but could they and should they craft a new story that was both authentic and brave? Jake's fingers tightened around his daughter's hand. More than anyone, she deserved realness. As they gathered their thoughts, laughter erupted around them. But this time it was different. A mixture of joy and uncertainty hung in the air, like a question waiting for the answer. Was it too late to start being genuine? That night, with the weight of hope and doubt swirling within him, Jake faced Maria, realizing their made-up roles would either transform into something real or shatter into a mess of untold truths. The little family night had turned into the beginning of a much bigger journey, one that might redefine everything he held dear. Jake stared into the warm, flickering light of the living room lamp, the soft glow contrasting sharply with the darkening clouds in his mind. Emily was nestled on the couch, her small fingers gripping a bright red crayon, deep in concentration on a new masterpiece. He could hear Maria moving around in the kitchen, putting the finishing touches on dinner. "Dad!" Emily called, breaking the 100 thoughts racing through Jake's head. "What do you think of this one?" She turned the page to reveal an explosion of color, an imaginative blend of flowers and stars dancing across the paper. "That's incredible, sweetheart," he said, genuinely impressed. The joy surged within him. He couldn't let anything, not even his complicated feelings about the evening, dim the light of her delight. Just then, Maria walked in with a plate of freshly baked cookies, her smile radiant. But as their eyes met, a fleeting moment of uncertainty passed between them. They both knew the weight of the conversation yet to come. "Looks like Emily's going to be our next Picasso," Maria teased, effortlessly bridging the gap between them. But Jake could see the unease lurking in her brow. "Yeah, she's really talented," he said, a drift of warmth enveloping his words. As they settled into the familiar rhythm of the evening, laughter and gentle ribbing filled the air. For a moment, Jake believed they could manage to keep the facade alive. But the truth tugged at him, demanding attention. "Jake, could we talk soon?" Maria's voice slipped through the chatter, firm yet soft. "Yeah, of course," he replied, trying to keep his heart from racing. After dinner, Emily scampered off to her room, leaving Jake and Maria alone. The silence that enveloped them felt heavy, like an uninvited guest. Jake braced himself for the difficult conversation they both knew was overdue. About earlier, Maria began, her voice steady, but he could sense the quake underneath. Emily, didn't he mean anything by it? Kids say things all the time, Jake interrupted, grasping at any thread that would delay the inevitable acknowledgement of their situation. We can't dismiss it, Jake. It's bigger than just a childish remark. She thinks this is something real, something permanent, because that's how we portrayed it. Her words hit him like icy water. The idea of permanence, of structure, danced around his thoughts, filling him with a mix of fear and longing. He wanted to support Emily, to give her the sense of family she craved, but at what cost? I know it's confusing for her, he admitted, the truth creeping out in a whisper. But what are we supposed to do? Just tell her it was all pretend. Maria stepped closer, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Maybe it's better if we explain how we still care for each other but also embrace what's real, what it could be. I can't keep pretending, Jake. It feels wrong. For her and for us. He rocked back, grappling with her honesty. Every part of him wanted to sweep this moment under the rug and keep pretending. But the fear of the impact that facade would have on Emily settled like lead in his chest. I don't want to hurt her, he said, voice breaking. And we want tea, not if we do this right. Maria's determination radiated through her warm gaze. His throat felt tight as he considered it. Could they face the idea of unraveling the story they had spun so carefully? What if they found a new narrative, a true one that wasn't based on lies? An image of Emily, strong and confident in her own skin, surrounded by honesty, flickered in his mind. Let us figure this out together, he finally said, his heart igniting with a tiny flame of hope. For her future, and for us. The smile that blossomed on Maria's face filled him with warmth. Just then, a loud crash echoed from Emily's room, shattering the moment. They both jumped, and Jake rushed toward the source of the noise, heart hammering in his chest. What was that? Jake called out, panic creeping into his voice. I'll check. Maria shouted, following him down the hallway. As they reached her room, they found Emily teetering on a stack of books. Daring and adventurous, just like her art. They exchanged amused glances, laughter erupting in the relief of the moment. Looks like our little artist is ready for the big stage, Jake joked, moving to help her. But as he caught her gaze, he realized the stakes were higher than just playful antics. With the truth on the horizon, he felt both exhilarated and terrified. What truths lay ahead? Would they emerge from this moment stronger or fractured under the weight of their decisions? Let us take it step by step, he whispered to himself, the night air thick with possibility. Tomorrow would be different, and perhaps it would spell a new beginning for all of them if they could just hold on long enough. Jake stood in the doorway, watching as Emily spun around, her arms wide open, feigning a grand bow. The books she had been climbing teetered ominously, but the moment was pure joy, a burst of childish energy that reminded him why they had to face the truth. More applause, please. She giggled, her laughter infectious. Maria joined in, clapping her hands. Bravo, Emily! What a performance! Jake could feel the warmth between them, and for a moment, he allowed himself to bask in it. Yet, the reality of their conversation loomed, casting shadows over their joy. Emily, ever the entertainer, had no idea of the dramatic changes about to unfold. All right, superstar, time for bed, Jake called, pulling her from her make-believe world. As Emily shuffled off to brush her teeth, he crossed his arms, leaning against the wall beside Maria. The air in the room shifted, their previous laughter replaced by an unspoken heaviness. Did you see her face? Maria asked softly, her eyes lingering on Emily as she giggled in the bathroom. She's really at that age where everything seems magical. It's wonderful, Jake replied, but the worry in his chest tightened. Makes it harder to think about how we're going to handle this. Maria nodded, her fingers brushing against his arm momentarily. It was brief, but enough to send a shiver of comfort through him. What if, she started, hesitating to find the words as Emily poked her head out, tooth-brushing paused as she listened intently. Nothing, Jake said quickly, responding before Maria could finish. Right, Em? Uh-huh. Emily yelled around her toothbrush, giggling. Jake let out a breath he didn't know he was holding, momentarily grateful for Emily's innocent interruption. Maria met his eyes, and they both knew they couldn't convey their deeper thoughts now. Not when Emily was right there, blissfully unaware. Okay, bedtime story, Maria announced with forced enthusiasm, scooping up a book from the shelf. Jake grabbed one too, and together they ushered Emily to her bed, showering her with the familiar rhythm of their nightly routine. After the story's last page turned, and the night quieted, Jake leaned down to Emily and whispered, "You know we love you so much, right?" "I know, Dad," she replied, her eyelids drooping, a contented smile on her face. As he watched her drift off, Jake felt a mixture of pride and guilt sweep through him. She deserved a voice of truth, she deserved the world. Once they closed the door to Emily's room, an electric silence enveloped them. "Do we really have to do this?" Maria asked, her expression wavering. "Yes," Jake replied, firm yet gentle. "It's not fair to her to pretend." "Right," Maria murmured, tears pooling in her eyes. "I just didn't think it would come to this, and neither did I," he admitted, the weight of their choices echoing between them. "But we have to face it head on." With that, they settled into a nearby chair, shadows flickering across the room as they talked, wrestling with feelings and words. Hours passed, words swirling around their heads, until they finally shared a plan, a tentative roadmap towards honesty. "Maybe it doesn't have to break us," Jake suggested softly, feeling the poetic weight of the moment. "Perhaps it could bring us closer, stronger?" "I hope you're right," Maria said, a small smile breaking through her tears. Taking a deep breath, they faced the uncertainty ahead. Outside, the sky began to lighten with dawn's approach, casting an ethereal shade across their sanctuary. Tomorrow would begin a new chapter, one that required courage to confront their truths, and as they sat together, Jake felt not only fear but a flicker of hope. Yet, a sudden noise from the street below interrupted his thoughts. A crash followed by angry voices, a man's shout, and the unmistakable sound of glass breaking. "What was that?" Jake breathed, his heart racing. "Jake, we should check it out," Maria urged, standing up. They exchanged worried glances. Was it just a random disturbance, or something more? With a quick nod, Jake steeled himself. He headed toward the door, uncertainty pooling within him. What awaited them beyond the threshold? Would their world hold together, or were they about to step into chaos? Jake pushed open the door, his heart pounding as the chaotic sounds from the street flooded into the quiet home they'd just created for Emily. Maria hesitated for a heartbeat, her eyes wide with concern, but he took a deep breath and stepped outside, pulling her along. The morning air was thick with tension. A group of men stood on the sidewalk, their voices raised, a mixture of anger and fright that sent a shiver down Jake's spine. There was a man on the ground, hunched near a shattered piece of glass, his clothes tattered, his forehead bleeding. "Stay behind me," Jake whispered to Maria. He moved forward cautiously, hand on the phone in his pocket, ready to call for help if needed. As they approached the scene, the tension in the air shifted. One of the men caught sight of Jake and threw a furious glance in his direction. "What are you looking at?" he spat, his voice tinged with hostility. "Hey, is he okay?" Jake asked, trying to keep his tone calm, as his eyes darted between the man on the ground and the riled group surrounding him. "Mind your own business," barked another man. The hostility crackled like static in the air. Jake's mind raced. Should he call the police? Should he intervene? The scenes of news reports rolled through his head. Chaos like this rarely ended well. He glanced back at Maria, who stood behind him, visibly shaken, but her eyes were wide with resolve. Someone should help him. Maria spoke up, stepping beside Jake, her voice steadying. "Look at him. He needs medical attention." For a moment, the chaos seemed to still. Jake noticed the men hesitated, uncertain in the face of her conviction. Maybe they had not expected to be challenged. Why do you care? One of the men growled. You don't know him. As if to punctuate his point, another man shot a stone at the ground near the bleeding figure. The crack echoed in the air, stirring Jake's protective instincts. Because Maria's voice trembled but didn't waver. No one deserves this, no matter who they are. Jake felt warmth rise within him, admiration flickering for the woman beside him. He took a step forward to shield her with his body. She's right. No one should suffer like this. If anyone's got a heart, they'd wanna help. The response was instant. One of the men laughed mockingly, but another glanced between the group, as if vacillating on a decision. Let us get out of here, he muttered, pulling at the sleeves of his jacket as if to shrug off the tension. We don't need to be part of this. Jake felt the wave of relief but knew second chances were often fleeting. Someone call for help. He shouted as the men began to disperse, their earlier bravado dissipating into uncertainty. And let us get him inside. His mind raced ahead, planning how to get Emily involved, how this moment could unearth empathy and humanity even in painful instances. As the group finally scattered, leaving only the injured man gasping for breath at their feet, Maria squatted beside him. Stay with us, we're going to help you, she said softly. Jake knelt, placing a reassuring hand on the stranger's shoulder, hoping to offer some stability in a storm of chaos. In that fragile moment, amidst the breaking of glass and raging voices, Jake felt a flicker of something changing. Perhaps this was exactly what was needed, a moment where they could learn how to face their own fears in this world. Amid the clatter of sirens approaching, Jake exchanged a glance with Maria. Their journey toward honesty loomed ahead, but together they just might rise from the ashes of uncertainty. But as the stranger's eyes locked onto his, filled with pain and desperation, Jake's heart sank. Would this change everything for his family? What would surrender mean for them now? Before he could dwell further, a thunderous crack echoed in the distance, leaving uncertainty hanging thick in the air. What dangers lay ahead in the path they had chosen? The distant wail of sirens grew louder as Jake remained knelt beside the injured man. The blood from the stranger's forehead trickled slowly, a stark contrast against the pavement. Maria kept her gaze locked on the man, her expression a mixture of compassion and fear. Stay with us, she urged again, gently dabbing at the wound with her sleeve, her hands trembling slightly. The sight was both harrowing and hopeful, two souls connecting in an unexpected moment of crisis. Jake felt helpless, the urge to shield Maria from the world crashing down around them pressing heavily on his chest. He wanted to protect her, yet he couldn't ignore the plea of their shared humanity. He could see in the stranger's eyes a glimmer of fear mingling with something else. Was it gratitude? Or perhaps a silent request for understanding? Just a little longer, Jake said firmly, looking up to see the approaching paramedics, their blue lights flashing. Relief washed over him, but the moment felt suspended in time. The tension in his shoulders eased just enough for him to connect with the stranger again. You're not alone. Help is coming. Why won't they help him sooner? Maria's voice was sharp, frustration igniting with urgency. She glanced at the crowd that had gathered a short distance away, their expressions mixed with curiosity and discomfort. It felt wrong, like a spectacle. Jake felt that spark of anger too, the injustice of it all. Some people don't know how to react, he said, trying to sound reassuring, but the truth was unsettling. He hated that people could turn away. Just then, the crowd parted slightly as a heavy-set man, visibly shaken, approached them. That's my brother, he stammered, breathless. Fear spread across his face as he rushed to kneel beside the injured man. What happened? Jake unlocked a new wave of empathy, realizing the stranger was more than an isolated victim. He was a brother, a son, a friend. We don't know. We just found him like this. He's going to be all right, Jake reassured him, although he couldn't shake the growing sense of dread hanging over them. As the paramedics finally arrived, Jake felt a wave of inertia lift. The professionals took over, carefully assessing the man on the ground, snapping orders that cut through the tension like a hot knife through butter. Maria stepped back, Jake beside her, both watching the scene unfold. Will he be okay? Maria asked softly, her resolve still holding strong despite manifesting fear. The heavy-set man's eyes mirrored her worry. He has to, he murmured, his voice quaking. Jake felt a swell of hope battling with anxiety. We did what we could, he reminded them both. He turned to Maria, noting the wide-eyed reflection of concern etched deep in her face. The lights flashed brighter. In the distance, he could hear faint whispers from the onlookers. Some were compassionate, others dismissive. It was a reminder that people could be dichotomous, capable of both kindness and cruelty. As the gurney was wheeled away, Jake felt a shiver run through him. They were back to the silence of the aftermath. What they had witnessed today could ripple through their lives in unexpected ways. "Let us head home," Jake finally said, but the words felt heavy. The safety of their home was suddenly dimmed by the reality they had just faced. Would it really be possible to provide a peaceful life for Emily in this unforgiving world? As they began to walk back, side by side, Maria broke the silence. "Jake, do you think," her voice faltered, and he felt fear grip him anew. "Do you think we could ever be that brave?" A chill skated down Jake's spine. He didn't have an answer, but he could feel the gears of their lives shifting beneath them. What would they do now? As the shadows stretched longer and the evening deepened, the question lingered like the last trace of sunlight, hanging heavily in the air. What would they become when faced with challenges like this? The worries about the world beyond their door had only just begun to unfold. The streets felt heavy as Jake and Maria walked home, the weight of the evening's events lingering in the air like a thick fog. Jake glanced at Maria, her brows furrowed in thought. He wanted to reach out to say something comforting or meaningful, but words eluded him. "Do you think he'll be okay?" she asked, almost to herself. "I hope so," Jake replied, though his heart wasn't entirely convinced. The image of the man's bruised forehead was seared into his memory, and he felt an unexpected sense of responsibility for a life that wasn't his. They reached their block, the familiar sight of their home providing a sliver of comfort. As they climbed the steps toward the door, a sense of normalcy washed over him, but it felt fragile, like a glass about to shatter. Inside, the quiet felt unsettling. Emily was already in bed, her small figure nestled under a mound of blankets. The soothing sound of her breathing was a stark contrast to the chaos they just witnessed. Jake found himself standing at her bedroom door, watching her sleep. "She's so innocent," he whispered to Maria. "I can't believe a world like this exists outside her door." Maria stepped beside him, her warmth a gentle presence. "We can't shield her from everything. She has to grow up and face challenges." "But what if we fail her?" His voice cracked, the fear of inadequacy gnawing at him. The image of the injured man flashed before him again, a reminder of the unpredictability of life. Maria placed a hand on his shoulder. "We can only do our best. She needs to see courage, even in tough times." With a heavy sigh, Jake turned and led them to the kitchen. He poured them both a glass of water to wash away the tension. The silence buzzed around them, filled with the unasked questions about their own hearts and futures. "Jake," Maria said slowly, "what if we could do something more? Next time be more than just bystanders?" A spark ignited in Jake's chest. "You mean like volunteering? Helping people in need?" "Yeah. Something that empowers us to take action. Something to teach Emily that life isn't just about being safe but also about standing up for others." Maria's blue eyes shone with a sudden determination, a fire that ignited a flicker of hope in Jake. "That might be the answer," he murmured, feeling a shift within him. It was daunting but thrilling, a chance to step beyond their own fears. "But where do we even start?" Maria leaned against the counter, deep in thought. "I've heard about this community center opening up. They're looking for volunteers for after-school programs." "That could be a start," Jake said, feeling alive with the idea. "We could create a safe space for kids like Emily, show them that they're not alone." As they spoke, Jake could sense the dawning realization that they could indeed be the change they sought. But the journey wouldn't be easy, nor would their feelings of fear and doubt vanish overnight. "It's a risk," Jake added, his tone serious. "We might face more pain, more difficult situations." Maria's expression softened. "But we'll face it together. I think that makes us brave." Suddenly, The doorbell rang, breaking the moment. They exchanged startled glances. Jake's heart raced, uncertainty settling back in as the ringing continued. "What now?" he muttered, heading toward the door. As he opened it, he froze. Standing there was the heavy-set man from earlier, tears in his eyes but a determined look on his face. "I need to talk to you," he said, his voice shaky. "I didn't get the chance to thank you properly for what you did for my brother." Jake's throat tightened. The weight of the world was suddenly back on his shoulders, but tonight, he was ready to face whatever came next. "What do you need?" Jake asked, stepping aside to let the man in. As the door closed behind them, Jake knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter, one that would challenge everything they thought they knew about bravery, community, and the ties that bind them. Jake stepped back, allowing the heavy-set man into their living room. The air between them was thick with unspoken words as Maria followed, her brows showing both concern and curiosity. Jake gestured toward the couch. "Please have a seat," he said, trying to maintain a calm demeanor despite the pounding of his heart. The man took a deep breath, his hands trembling as he wiped away a few stray tears with the back of his hand. "I'm sorry to come by so late. My name is Frank. Frank Davis." He seemed to struggle with the weight of his emotions, glancing down before meeting Jake's eyes. "My brother, he didn't deserve what happened tonight." "I understand," Jake said softly. "It was a scary situation." "No, you don't understand." Frank's voice rose slightly, heavy with urgency. "My brother's been down for so long. Life's been hard on him. He thought he was getting better. That night was supposed to be different celebration, a fresh start." He paused, struggling to find the right words. Then it all came crashing down. Jake felt a surge of pain for this man's heartache. He was just a bystander in Frank's storm, but the way he felt for that injured man was a testament to their shared humanity. "We just wanted to help. I wish we could have done more," he said, feeling his chest tighten. "I sought you out tonight because," Frank hesitated again, "because true help doesn't stop with bandages and bruises. It's about connection, about community. You stepped up when no one else would. Not many people would do that." Maria straightened, her gaze shifting between Frank and Jake. "We're just trying to figure out how to make a difference, you know? We're considering volunteering at the community center." Frank leaned forward, visibly intrigued. "That's the spirit. We need more of that. Help people stand, and when they fall, help catch them." There was an intensity in his eyes, the kind that spoke of shared struggles and unseen battles. "Is there something more we could do? Is there anything specific your brother needs now?" Jake asked, his heart racing, and just like that, Frank opened up. "He needs to know people care. He has lost faith in the world. If you could come by the hospital, just talk to him. I think it would mean a lot." "Of course. We'd be honored to do that," Jake replied, feeling a commitment taking shape. It felt right, like a path opening before them, illuminated by a sudden sense of purpose. "Thank you," Frank said, his voice steadier now. "You don't realize how much this means to me." They exchanged numbers, a beginning emerging from a chaotic end. As Frank prepared to leave, Jake took a breath and said, "We can all feel lost sometimes. But connections, those make the difference." Frank smiled, a flicker of hope in the depths of his worn features. "You're right. Maybe we can find a sense of family in the most unexpected places." After Frank left, Jake turned to Maria, who wore a contemplative look. "What do you think?" she asked quietly. "I think this could really be the start of something incredible," he replied, hope igniting within him. Their resolve grew, bouncing off the walls of their small home as they talked late into the night about what they could accomplish together. Community service, family bonds, healing, it all felt more tangible now. "Jake?" Maria asked, her voice soft. "What if we became more than just volunteers? What if we helped create a network, a support system for others like Frank?" It was an audacious idea, risky but filled with promise. Jake felt the gravity of their mission tugging him forward. "Let us do it," he said. "Let us make it happen." As they settled into bed, exhaustion mixed with exhilaration. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and undoubtedly more heartache. But with every step they took together, they could discover the warmth that lay within the struggle. The dawn broke with a sense of urgency and the air change was on the horizon. As they dreamt, a question lingered: what would this journey demand of them next? The morning light slipped through the curtain, casting soft patterns across the room. Jake stirred first, the weight of the previous night settling on his chest like a warm blanket. As he dressed, his mind raced with things to do. How could they reach out to Frank's brother? What were the first steps in building a community support network from the ground up? Maria joined him in the kitchen, where the rich aroma of brewing coffee filled the space. She looked energized, sharing Jake's enthusiasm. "Did you sleep at all?" Jake asked, pouring a cup for each of them. "Not much," she admitted, a smile lighting her face. "But I laid there thinking, what if we held a community meeting? We could bring people in, listen to their stories. Maybe share our own." "I love that idea," Jake responded, his heart racing at the prospect. "We should aim to reach as many people as possible. Make it a real gathering, not just a meeting." Maria nodded, her eyes glinting with excitement. "How about advertising it at the community center? We can make flyers, use social media, put the word out." They brainstormed ways to engage others, discussing potential venues, speakers, and topics. The vision began to unfold before them, exhilarating in its scope. As they jotted ideas down, Jake's phone buzzed. It was a message from Frank, asking if they could meet him at the hospital later that afternoon. "Looks like the universe is pushing us forward," Jake said, sharing the news with Maria. "I can't wait to meet him," she said. "And his brother, too. We have to show them there is still hope out there." The hours flew by as Jake and Maria prepared for their visit. They printed out flyers and wrote down words of encouragement for Frank's brother, little messages that could let him know he wasn't alone, that someone cared. Armed with hope and purpose, they set out to the hospital as the sun dipped lower in the sky. Walking through the hospital halls, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and the sterile scent of antiseptic filled their nostrils. Jake felt a mixture of dread and anticipation. What kind of brother would they meet? What pain had he borne? When they reached Frank's brother's room, an uneasy silence hung in the air. The door cracked open slightly, and Jake recognized Frank waiting outside, his face a canvas of anxiety and hope. "Thank you for coming," Frank said, visibly relieved to see them. "He's not the same guy he was before. I'm scared." As they followed Frank into the room, Jake's heart sank. The man lying there looked frail, a shadow of who he used to be. Jake felt a knot in his stomach but took a deep breath, grounding himself. This was why they were here, to connect, to help reignite the spark this man had lost. "Hello," Jake said gently. "My name is Jake, and this is Maria. We're here because we care." Maria stepped closer, her eyes warm and inviting. "We've been talking about how to create a space where people can feel supported, a community where no one feels alone." The man barely stirred, his eyes flickering open, revealing an emptiness that tugged painfully at Jake's heart. But then, as Frank placed a reassuring hand on his brother's arm, Jake felt something shift in the room. A quiet yet poignant connection was beginning. What would it take to breathe life back into this moment? To show the man that hope was not lost? As Jake held the brother's gaze, he could sense the beginning of a bond, fragile but filled with possibility. But what they didn't know was that this fragile connection would unravel secrets and truths, forcing them to confront not just the pain of others, but their own as well. Jake sat on the edge of the hospital bed, feeling overwhelmed by the gravity of the moment. The man before him, Frank's brother, looked so fragile, as if hope had slipped through his fingers like sand. The sterile environment seemed to amplify their vulnerability, yet it also hinted at the healing that could emerge from connection. "We're here for you," Jake repeated, his voice soft yet firm, trying to breathe life into the emptiness surrounding them. Frank stood beside his brother, his face etched with worry. "He needs to know he's not alone in this fight. We want to help however we can," he said, emotions washing over him like waves crashing against rocks. Maria joined in, her presence radiating warmth. "You may feel lost now, but you don't have to navigate this alone. We all face struggles, and it's okay to lean on others when you're feeling weak. There was a flicker in the injured man's eyes, a tiny spark of recognition. Did he understand? Did he realize that a flicker of hope could turn into a blazing fire with just a little encouragement? They began to share stories. Jake spoke of his own triumphs and failures as a single dad trying to create a family in the midst of uncertainty. Maria recounted her journey, the Herculean effort it took just to arrive where she was now. Each word, articulated with raw emotion, filled the space between them with something tangible, a bridge built on shared experience. In that moment, the heaviness in the air began to shift. The brother slowly opened his mouth, his voice hoarse but filled with unspent yearning. I thought I had lost everyone. I'm not worth saving, he said, tears brimming in his eyes. No, Frank insisted, shaking his head, his voice stronger now. You are worth it. We both are. We can climb out of this together. I promise you, we will fight this to the very end. The brother's gaze shifted to Frank, and Jake witnessed a transformation. The realization that he wasn't alone, that the bonds of family could still uplift him, began to reshape the atmosphere. The world outside buzzed on, but inside this room, a flicker of hope was ignited. Jake and Maria exchanged glances, a silent acknowledgement that they were witnessing something beautiful, a slow, deliberate step toward healing. Days passed, morphing into weeks. The simple gestures made a difference, the supportive texts, the visits, the shared meals. They started the community meeting at the center, bringing people together to share their experiences. With each gathering, life blossomed in unexpected forms, and the community began to move from isolation to interconnectedness. Emily adored the bustling energy of the center, her laughter ringing out as she played with her new friends. Look, Dad! It's like a big family, she exclaimed one evening. Jake's heart swelled with pride and gratitude. Together, they were creating something new. One evening, as they prepared for another community meeting, Jake found a moment with Maria. This is incredible, he said, watching the colorful chaos of kids and adults bonding. I never thought we'd get here. Maria smiled, her face radiant. It's been pure magic. And as scary as it was to be vulnerable, to open up, it has truly changed everything. Yeah, he breathed, awash in emotion. It feels like we're building a family here, one forged from understanding instead of perfection. As they spoke, Frank approached them, his brother at his side, looking healthier and more confident. I wanted to thank you again, Frank said, his eyes glistening. You put life back into my brother. You reminded us that we are never truly alone. He placed a hand on his brother's shoulder, a gesture of affection that spoke volumes. Emotions filled the air like the rising beat of a symphony, powerful, moving, resonating deep within each of them. Jake felt a rush of warmth fill his heart. They had transformed challenges into triumphs, pain into purpose. This was the new story they had crafted, a tapestry woven from shared struggles, new friendships, and hope that burned brightly in the tapestry of their lives. As the laughter continued to surround them, the warmth of belonging wrapped around Jake. He took a deep breath, allowing it to swell in his chest. Then let us keep building this together, Jake replied. For all of us. And just like that, they promised to continue the journey together, bravely facing the future by relying on one another. This was just the beginning, not just of a busy community center, but the dawn of a family redefined, resilient in the face of whatever came next. Now it's your turn to step into this story. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive tales that will inspire and uplift. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure these stories reach those who need them most. Comment your feelings and reactions about the ending below. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformative journey. You need to support the channel. Let us grow this community together.